out here at Keystone Lake today catching some stripers. If you've never done it, you ought to try it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. You know, Oklahoma is really known all over the country, for that matter, for having some of the best striper fishing around. And much of that credit lies, deservedly so, with Lake Texoma. But probably fewer people outside Oklahoma know about the great striper fishing at Keystone Lake, just west of Tulsa. And if you're to ask the locals that fish it regularly, well, I'm sure they're just fine with it not being as well known. But today, we're going to let that secret out as we go fishing for stripers on Keystone with a couple of our very own. Now, Don Brown is our associate editor of our magazine, Outdoor Oklahoma, and Amanda Thomas is from our federal aid office. Today, they're going to be fishing with local guide Steve King. We are Keystone Lake. We are just on the north side of Highway 412 bridge. The stripers have been moving through here for the past week as they're releasing water out of call, releasing it through here and on down through the dam. Creates a current in here. The bait fish hang out and the stripers, of course, chase them. And of course, we're chasing the stripers. So I'm going to give this area about 10 minutes and
You know, I grew up around Tulsa and we were at Keystone a lot, but this is the first time I've actually been out striper fishing on Keystone Lake.
Right now at this time of year, though, depending on how much water they're letting out through Keystone or through the dam, it sets up a flow, a current flow in the lake. And of course, we're close to a bridge area, which really confines that flow. And if they've got a high flow through the dam, you're going to have an extremely high flow or a current area in the vicinity of the bridge. Really, the best thing you can do is just, before you even take the rod out of the rod holder, is start reeling, not slow, I mean reeling just good and steady. You want to load that rod up, and loading that rod up puts pressure on that, you know, on that line and on that hook. And as the hook starts to slide out, and you know the fish is moving away from you, as the hook starts to slide out of its mouth, it turns, and therefore hooks the fish. A lot of times, if they've swallowed a hook and you set the hook, then you'll gut hook them. Or if they've just got it in their mouth, you'll miss them completely because it'll pull it right out of their mouth without the opportunity to hook up. Now I'm showing 4 individual fish here just off the bottom, which is showing the same thing this is showing.
Supposed to tell you what I'm learning? Yeah. Learning to hold my thumb on the dang bait caster. Start reeling before you pick it up. Don't set the hook. That's it for now. All 3 different times that I've been striper fishing, we've fished 3 different ways. The first time we were kind of trolling with Steve O'Donnell, and then the second time with Matt, I think we were using the little crankbait things to where we were just dropping it over the side of the boat, and then now live bait, so good stuff.
Keystone is a really neat fishery. It's a very unique fishery. It's one of 3 locations in Oklahoma that you can actually target and catch stripers. Stripers that are self-sustaining. We've got Keystone stripers, we've got stripers down on Texoma, and we've got stripers in the Arkansas River system. But the ones in Keystone are self-sustaining. They're close to Tulsa, close to the greater metropolitan areas, and it's a great fishery. Not only does it have stripers, it's got sand bass, white bass as many people call them. We've got blue cat, we've got channel cat, we've got crappie, we've got flathead. There's just virtually every species that you would want to fish for is right here on Keystone. And a large group of shad down here. The old river channels are right here. And we've got some fish showing up here now. So I'm gonna get some baits in the water and see what happens.
So how deep?
Let's set these about 22 or 23 feet.
I am baiting the hook. Is that what you mean? And then, well, Pete's had to put it right through the nose there. And then the fish are about 22, 23 feet right here, so. Gonna drop it down to, I'm gonna go with 22 counter. Reeling it in. I mean, I guess what's going through your head is just how big is it, and you're just so excited to see what it is, because you're really not sure what it is until it hits the top of the water. And then see how big it is just pretty awesome. I really didn't care if it was 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. I could tell it was big, and it was pretty awesome.
Well, that's not our target species, but
hey, it's mine. I'll take a catfish.
a good eating.
Yeah. Well.
You gonna keep the catfish?
If you don't care, I will.
Oh, I don't care. Yeah, a lot of times they'll hit it. They'll be moving through in a group, or a small school or a pod of fish will be moving through, and they'll one will see that shad and latch onto the shad. He may not take the whole thing down. He may grab the shad by the tail, or, to get away from the other fish to then go eat it. And a lot of times they'll just pop it right off the rod without getting hooked up.
Looks like he was trying to get the bait. Just didn't get up far enough on it. What does kill the bait? I mean, they get a good bite on it?
They're so fragile that it doesn't take a whole lot to kill a shad. And they'll clamp down on it and mouth it, and generally that's all it takes to put them in a stress mode. And then once they're stressed, then they die.
We've got one fish in the boat, so that's a success. It's not what we were after, but it's a fish.
Well, Amanda and I were fishing today, and I wasn't aware there was a contest going on, but apparently,
Fish on.
she caught a few more.
There we go.
I don't know if I can lift it up.
Score 1 for Amanda.
Woohoo! And it got in the boat. Nice.
There's one.
Good job.
We'll see how long it is. What's your guess, Steve?
Probably
see these
19 inches.
19?
There's a measuring board on top of the ice chest.
Got a little fighter here.
Somebody wants me to net a fish. I thought you said you were bad luck, Don.
Nice.
Good eating.
3 pounds, maybe 2 pounds.
He'll go about 2.5, 3 pounds, yeah. Nice little channel cat.
Oh!
Well, we found catfish
Yeah.
haven. We found a catfish. They put a good bend in the rod like that, and they can take fish home to eat. They're happy. You got him?
Yeah. I do normally catfish. It is my favorite. I usually fish for sure Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday afternoon. Me and my family. I've got a sister that really loves it. Brothers, brother-in-laws, dad, cousins, uncles. We all love going out and catching us some catfish, mostly at nighttime. So it was pretty exciting to get into some catfish here, even though we set out for striper. It was pretty awesome. I don't think I've ever had a day where I've caught all 3 species of catfish. I caught a blue cat first, and then a couple of channel, and then caught a pretty good sized flathead. Dang, did I have that much line out?
Probably not. How much is showing out right now?
6 feet.
Well, we'll be able to see the weight here in a minute. Hey, you got a nice striper this time.
He's putting on a show. Get up here, buddy. There we go. Oh, nice. Wow. Holy cow.
All right, this is what we came to see.
Yeah. Oh, bent the hook.
That's all right. Can you get him?
Yeah. Oh, I said yeah, right. Man.
Keystone was built in the early 60s, or impounded in the early 60s, and was on the Arkansas River. At that time, stripers were not to be found in Oklahoma, other than in places that they had been stocked. Once they built Keystone Lake, they did stock it with stripers, and they exploded in the mid to late 80s. Keystone was one of the best, one of the most premier striper fisheries to be found on fresh water, in inland waters. Of course, there were several circumstances that led kind of to the demise of the striper as being king here on Keystone, but they're coming back. The past 4 to 5 years, where we were catching 2 and 3 pound striper before, and very few of those. Now we're catching stripers into the teens. We're catching stripers into the 20-pound range, and they're a ball to catch. They will put a serious bend in a rod and stretch a line and peel some grass.
And tonight it's smiling down on you.
A lot of times we don't like to admit that we don't know what we're doing, but when it comes to really getting after the striped bass, it can pay off when you have an experienced guide handy, take you out and show you the ropes and tell you what you're doing wrong, or show you what you need to do. And you know, in that case, think about getting a guide and going out, and it'll be well worth the time and effort.
And the tip again, you want to make sure to keep it out. Oh, catfish.
Cat.
Looks like another channel.
Yep, their blues aren't hitting today, but the channels are.
Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that.
No, you don't.
I have been striper fishing. This was my 3rd time. First 2 times were striper fishing on Lake Texoma, both with wildlife fisheries guys. But this was probably my best trip yet. We were using live bait. I don't know if that was the key. It sounds like it might have been. But caught the biggest ones that I have ever caught, and the most that I've ever caught on any of the 2 prior trips.
Maybe it's a big fish.
Maybe it's a big fish.
Maybe it's a catfish sitting on the bottom.
Oh, goodness.
Oh,
Man.
There you go.
Who needs to go noodling when you can catch flatheads?
Gosh, dang. One
There
of
you
every
go.
kind.
It is a log.
Fish on.
I get such a wide variety of people that request a guide service or a guide trip. Probably the majority of them are people that don't own a boat or don't have access to a boat, and they just want to go fishing. They want to catch fish. Of course, here on Keystone, I fish for stripers. We fish for white bass. We fish for catfish. About the only species I don't guide for are crappie. But right now, at this time of the year, the spring of the year is the best, in my way of thinking, is the best time for the stripers. That's when we'll catch the most in numbers, and usually the largest.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, he's a little on the skinny side.
Throw him back.
Let's let him go. Let's let him go back and grow up. What do you think?
Yeah. On any other day, I wouldn't throw that back. I'm just saying. But
Yeah, but look at the box.
I
know. Today we had a great time targeting striped bass. We ended up catching catfish and drum, and a few stripers. So all in all, it was a great time here on Keystone.
Striper fishing, without a doubt, is one of the greatest joys, greatest amounts of fun that I think you can have in fishing in Oklahoma. They hit hard, they fight hard, they're great to eat, and they're good for some stories to your buddies, your friends, your family.
I would recommend striper fishing if you have the means to do so. It's very fun. They fight. I would have thought I had a 30-pounder on the line with one of the ones I was trying to reel in. I think it was only like an 8-pounder, but it was sure fun and gave me a good fight. Flathead's belly up.
That might be the biggest one, right?
I don't know, that other one.
That first one I caught must have fought a little harder. It's pretty hot, but not as hot as it could be. Perfect for fishing though. Day or night, in my opinion. I'm sure most in the middle of the day would be too hot for them to fish, but if you have free time, might as well be outside or on the water.
It's fishy in the lake. Come on now and eat this bait. Make the rod bend, make it bow to the skillet, you will go.
Oh, are you kidding me?
It's a drum.
How'd you know?
Is that same one?
Did you get the same one?
Could be.
Does it feel good?
Yep, this is a great time here on Keystone Lake today. Fishing with guide Steve King. Catching some catfish.
I love being outside, outdoors, and fishing is just something that you could just about do anywhere where there's water. Give it a try. I mean, fishing equipment is not real expensive. Anybody can run out and buy a rod and reel and go by and get some bait. I think it's just better than sitting inside watching TV all day or all night. Why not just be active and fish? When you catch your first couple, I think you'd be hooked. I just encourage you to try it if you haven't. We're out here at Keystone Lake. We're supposed to be catching some striper, but we're running into some nice catfish. This here is a blue.
All right, another fish on Keystone Lake today.
And it's a blue.
That's 2-pound blue.
First time all three in one day, probably less than 4 hours. Got a flathead on the left hand, channel cat in the middle, and then the blue cat here on the right.
Let me show you one of the rigs that we were using today, and this is primarily my favorite way to rig. Now, some people, if we were in bass fishing circles, they would call this a Carolina rig. But in hybrid or striper fishing, we call this a down rig, a down line. We have a weight, which this particular weight is 1.5 ounces. We have a swivel. It doesn't have to be a ball bearing swivel, it's just a cheap old barrel swivel. Our main line consists of 30-pound big game line. Our leader consists of either 17 or 20-pound. I use big game or Trilene Sensation line, and a hook. Now I use two different styles of hooks. This is a 2/0 KO hook, and I also use a 3/0 circle hook. With the use of either one of these hooks, you don't have to set the hook. The fish does that when he hits. He'll eat the shad, they'll bend the rod down in the water, that puts pressure on the hook and the line, or the line and the hook, and starts pulling the hook out of his mouth, and when that happens, the hook will turn, actually hook the fish. All you have to do is start winding, start cranking, get that fish in the boat, or up close where we can get him in the net, and the rest is history, like in the box.
You know, our anglers said it before, but if you're using live bait, well, you really never know what you're going to catch, regardless of what you're targeting. It's really the sheer volume of shad in Keystone that really make it such a great fishery. And if you're planning on using live bait, well, I'd recommend that you brush up on the regulations pertaining to seines and cast nets. But if you don't have a fishing boat, or if maybe your cast net skills are a little lacking like mine are, well, maybe using a licensed fishing guide is a good option. And we've made it easy because we keep a record and a list of all licensed fishing guides in Oklahoma on our website, wildlifedepartment.com. From the fishing tab, go to where to fish, then select licensed fishing guides. You know, and as our guide Steve mentioned today, quality Keystone stripers are on the comeback. And that's good news for Northeast Oklahoma anglers. Make sure you make some time to check it out yourself this year. Now for this week's outdoor calendar. Hey, thanks for joining us today. We'd encourage you to continue in on this conservation conversation with us on social media through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. For all of us at your Wildlife Department, I'm Todd Craighead, and we'll see you right here next time on Outdoor Oklahoma.